speaking of reducing the workforce at the behest of eliminating redundancies, here's another aspect where you simply cannot cheap out, which is safety. FAA employee fired by the Trump administration expresses shock over removal. The Trump administration is also obviously while all of these planes are falling out of the sky or, having all these like weird incidents over and over again. On the other hand, our brilliant government is supercharging dreams of the Reaganite era of the past, or finishing the job that Reagan started, basically. All right, here it is.
In this country, Trump's acting Social Security commissioner stepped down over the weekend. According to multiple reports, she had resisted letting Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency look inside the agency's most sensitive records. The White House is saying that DOGE is looking to eliminate waste and fraud. And this morning, Nancy Cordes has the story of one of the thousands of federal workers already fired since Trump took office.
And I was in complete disbelief.
Monica, who asked us not to use her last name, was hired by the FAA in December to be an aviation safety assistant at Dallas-Fort Worth.
Yeah, if you know anything about the FAA aviation safety inspectors, we simply have too many of them, When I think of aviation safety, I think the guys responsible for it, there's probably too many. We need to make it less safe, please. That's what I think. Like, there is no world in which, especially on this side of things, but you can make this argument for virtually every aspect of the federal government, where there is need for less people, okay? No, there's need for more people. Understaffing is so commonplace everywhere. There is a problem with understaffing in virtually all aspects of the regulatory agencies, virtually all aspects of all the goods and services that you consume in general. Okay, there's understaffing issues at hospitals with nurses. There's understaffing issues everywhere. The notion that we need less people, or fewer people and not more people, is ridiculous.
Worth Airport. She was part of the team that filed inspections and reports on the American Airlines fleet.
I personally did not feel that our positions were at risk for the simple fact that we are in the Flight Standards Safety Division. It says its name, right? Flight and safety.
But on Friday, she was let go. With less than a year on the job, she had not yet received civil service protections. The stinging dismissal email blamed her performance and said, "You have not demonstrated that your further employment at the DOT FAA would be in the public interest."
There have been no negative comments or feedback until I got this letter about performance.
What this really does appear to be is just a purely false stated reason.
Employment lawyer Michal Shinar says the reason Trump's team has been citing performance in firings is because by law, probationary federal workers can only be removed for performance or misconduct.
We don't let an agency get around these congressional directives by just terminating our probationary employees and mass claiming it's performance when it's not.
They're firing every probationary worker with rare exceptions. They're saying that performance is below standards and firing probies, so they can't file for reinstatement via the MSPB.
She says the situation is ripe for class action lawsuits, while Trump officials insist these cuts are just a drop in the bucket. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy posting last night, quote, "The FAA alone has a staggering 45,000 employees. Less than 400 were let go."
Oh my
We're still
God.
waiting for the exact numbers of cuts at most other agencies like the CDC and NIH. Nate?
We will stay tuned. Nancy, thank you.
Isn't there already a shortage at the FAA? Why do this now?
I want to look at something, okay? Number of federal government employees in, or let's see, year over year. The size of the federal workforce has grown from 1.8 million in 2019 to 2 million in 2023. But there was a time and place where I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but the federal workforce number was certainly larger, despite the fact that the American population has been growing. Yeah, in the 1950s, the federal government employed 1.4 million people. Oh, this is an AI overview. What the Oh, God, why is there so much? In the 1960s, that's incorrect. God damn it, AI overview. What the fuck is this number, bro? Look at this AI overview. Thank you, Google. In the 1950s, the federal government employed 1.4. Like, what is this number, dude? It's not even 1.4 million. It's 1,433,753,686.485 people. I fucking hate AI so much. Okay, yes, thank you. The number of federal employees peaked in the 1990s at 3.4 million. Okay, God damn it, AI is so stupid. Here, this is what I was actually looking at. Okay, from the 1940s onward, obviously in 1943 there was one big peak at 3 million, and the peak of federal employment in 1990 was 3.4 million. And since the 90s onward, we have slashed the federal workforce in spite of the fact that the number of our civilian population has grown, okay? Our population has grown dramatically overall. So the federal civilian employee per population, per capita, has gone down, okay? So we have more people and less federal employees in that process. The little spikes are temporary census workers, yeah. But overall, it grew and grew and grew, and it was around 3 million, I guess. And then since then, it has just gone down. Bill Clinton had a drawdown on federal staffing due to the Cold War. Reagan also had fired people, Patco workers, etc. 300 to 400,000 people were fired under Clinton. But the news is saying what Trump is doing is the same as Clinton. It patently isn't. Yeah, I mean, what Clinton did wasn't also great either, for the record. I hope you understand. So the government is more efficient now. It's more efficient in terms of like, obviously, readily available technology. Readily available technology makes every workforce more efficient. Like, what else has happened since the 90s? We have mass usage of the internet. We have smartphones. Obviously, it's more efficient, as in one person can do the job of many in significantly less time. That's efficiency. We have computers. Technological advancements unironically make things more efficient. But in that process, you're not supposed to fire the existing workforce. You're supposed to reduce their burden. You're supposed to reduce their workload. But of course, we don't operate like that because we're constantly min-maxing. But especially when you pair this up with the explosive growth of the American population in that same time frame, you start realizing that perhaps we don't have enough employees for all of these jobs. And when you don't have enough employees for these jobs, you have your service overall. That's it. And what a lot of people fail to understand is that, for example, when you go to the DMV and the service is even like the person that's working at the DMV, for example, is just angry all the time, seemingly, and you have to wait for hours. That is not because the government sucks. That's because they don't have enough employees. That's it. It's always because of understaffing. I'll give you one example. Luggage handlers. Luggage handlers is a great example. Airlines know full well when they're overloading their existing labor force, okay? But because of efficiency and because of cost-cutting measures, because labor is the most malleable aspect of all commodity production, they just simply don't hire enough luggage handlers. So when you go to the airport and you're like, why the is my luggage not coming out? What the hell's going on? Why do I have to wait an hour and a half? I missed my transferring flight. I missed my connecting flight. What is happening here? That is literally because the luggage handlers are overloaded, understaffed, and are doing output as a consequence of that. You just see the service there and you think, oh, these lazy pieces of these lazy luggage handlers, man, they suck. But the reality of the matter is the reason why at the point of service, the reason why you're experiencing this awful service is directly due to the company making these decisions at the behest of profit, especially because most airlines, like in domestic air travel in the United States of America, it's basically an oligopoly. And in some markets, it's basically a monopoly. So what are you going to do? Not fly to your destination when it's the only method of travel? What are you going to do? No, you have to sit there frustrated and wait. That's how it works. But because we are so primed into thinking that it's actually our fellow workers that are responsible for these issues individually because of their ineptitude, incompetence, lack of care, lack of interest, laziness, or whatever, we never truly understand who is at fault. And it's a very frustrating process. When the lines of the grocery store are too long, it's the employee's fault. When the line of the post office is too long, it's because the government's bad. I mean, when the line at the post office is too long, it's still a direct consequence of the same exact thing that we were just talking about. The line at the post office is long because the post office is understaffed. Everything is understaffed. These guys are still actively advocating for more understaffing. It's not the employee's fault at the grocery store. It is still understaffing. So it's technically the people that are in charge of those decisions that have caused this this service to be worse overall.
Especially considering what's happened in the States, and now, of course, you have this other incident and a few others.
Yeah, well, this one happened in Canada, but
yes.
I can only tell you what the Secretary of Transportation says. There are 45,000 employees at the FAA. We're talking about fewer than 400 people, and he says 0 air traffic controllers and critical safety personnel were let go. So if that's true, I don't really have a problem with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I love this dipshit, okay? I remember reading somewhere, I think it was like, it might have been like Felix or maybe Edinger Mentum, it was like, Scott Jennings is the perfect person for this administration because he's such a shameless, slimy asshole who will just sit there and be like, well, the marginal victory that the Trump administration had at a time of like historic inflation against a historically unpopular cadaver seemingly gives Donald Trump the heavens mandate, the popular mandate to do all of these like staff cuts. It's so annoying. Like, no, you don't have momentum. You do not have motion. You do not have popular mobilization, especially for cutting Social Security, okay?
I do like the idea of keeping the people who are in the direct chain of command of safety and the air traffic control system and so on and so forth. But I have a hard time believing that there is a single government agency.
Yeah, I had this exact, nice bathroom, you're 100% correct. We had this exact same conversation with Twitter, okay? Remember when Twitter employees were laid off? The conversation is the same. They were lazy and not innovating anyway, so what's the loss? Exactly. Twitter as a product is legitimately worse. Like, I don't know how you can't recognize that. And I told you, like, Twitter is a perfect example of the government, okay? It's like 1 for 1. Twitter, when it was run by woke liberals or whatever, right? It still sucked. There were still plenty of issues, but at least it was a more competent product that you could consume, okay? And then Elon Musk came in and gutted the entirety of the staff. Look where we're at now. Like, it still works. Like, the skeleton is still there and it still kind of works. There's still major issues all the time. So people go, oh, dude, it's fine. What are you talking about? Every aspect of Twitter is awful. It got significantly worse than the Twitter of the past when it was run by at least like to some degree of competency by liberals.
An agency that doesn't have a bloat of administrative personnel that we could probably do without. And I think that's why a lot of voters are happy that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are finally going through the federal government and trying to take out some of this bureaucracy that we probably just don't need. So I'm reading to you what Sean Duffy says. He's the Secretary of the Transportation. Yeah. I have no reason to doubt his numbers.
Karen, when you hear this, I mean,
yeah, he knows best. Scientists, woke and gay, they don't know best when they're talking about their specific field of research. Sean Duffy, television personality, well, he's the transportation secretary, so he knows best, okay? Pete Hegseth, well, guess what? He's leading the DOD. I don't see you leading the DOD. He's not a DEI candidate. He's a DUI candidate, okay? That's right. He knows best.
Look, Americans are concerned about bloat in the federal government. They have been for a very long time. What do you make of how it's been meted out?
So the concern that I think a lot of Americans have, we can all agree there's bloat. We can all agree that we need to deal with that. At the same time, what we're seeing is speed for the sake of creating momentum, to create a sense of things are happening. At the same time, look what happened Friday. We had nuclear scientists fired, and then they said, oops, we need those people because they have a technical skill that nobody else has. So the problem that I have with the way they're doing it is, and I went to the DOJ website to see if they would say anything about, look, we are conducting this process to make sure we don't harm American safety, their health, or take money out of their wallets. They don't say that. And we're finding out the consequences and the impact of some of these things. If you're a doctor for the VA in the Midwest and you're told you're going to be...
This is a problem born out of not having any principled leftists on any number of different mainstream outlets. Understand, the automatic position of the most quote unquote like anti-Trump liberal on the panel should not be that it's definitely for the greater good that we're engaging in mass layoffs in the federal government. You shouldn't be playing catch up. Your first position should be that there is no reason to engage in layoffs at a time when we should probably be hiring more people. But because their underlying worldview is unfortunately so similar to the Republican worldview in terms of maximizing efficiency, they start the position by saying, no, there is actually reason to like fire a bunch of government employees. They're just not doing it right, and they're firing the wrong people. No, that's not what you're supposed to say. You're supposed to say, what the fuck are you doing? We need more people working, not less. That should be your starting position. And then you work your way up to that argument, which is that, and here is why it's really stupid when you engage in these sorts of idiotic layoffs, because obviously you're eliminating a bunch of positions that were, eliminating the positions of a bunch of government employees that were working on really important things. That's why it was so frustrating for me when I saw Ro Khanna start off by being like, well, Bill Clinton did a fantastic job eliminating 400,000 federal government employees, but he did it by working with Congress. It's like, that's not, like, why are you presenting that as a good thing? Don't you realize that the underlying ideology there, the underlying premise that you're operating off of is that it is a good thing to fire government employees? How is this in any way, shape, or form an adequate counterbalance to the Republican neoliberalism? This is why I say, and many others say correctly, that the Democrats are also neoliberal.
Be fired, or you're waiting for this, court to play out. What are you supposed to do with your client who is the veteran who's got PTSD? Are you trying to find them someone else to go see because you're not sure if you're going to be there in 2 weeks, or are you assuming you'll be spared because someone will figure out that it's probably not smart to get rid of doctors who are at the VA who may be working on a critical function? So that's the concern. I think this could have been done with a lot more thoughtfulness about how do we protect people's safety. Even if you said, look, we're going to take 2 weeks at each agency and try to do some kind of rubric to make an assessment, not putting it into an AI system, by the way, which is some of what we've read that they've done. And I think what we're going to find is a number of these oops moments that could be dangerous.
I just think they need to read the...
Don't you only fire government employees when your economy's in the shit and you're producing as much as you should? Sure, it will work in Argentina, but why is it being done in the U.S. with very competent workers? First of all, it's also not good in Argentina either. I don't think austerity is a good thing. It's definitely not a good thing. If it was a good thing, we wouldn't enforce it upon the entirety of the global South. It's just wild because now we're accelerating it to our and doing it to ourselves. We've always, one might say, Republicans have always engaged in this sort of thing, but never to this degree.
I mean, there have been 3 major plane crashes in just, less than a month. One of them was just a few blocks from the high school I went to in Northeast Philadelphia. And, tell that to the little boy with the metal in his head, trying to protect his sister during that plane crash. I think that not only do you have to protect the safety of Americans physically, but I think you have to protect our safety mentally. We see you laying off people from the FAA. At this point, nobody at the FAA is dispensable. I think you have to keep everybody there at least, for the time being, because we've had these major plane crashes that you haven't seen in 16 years.
Kevin, the optics of this is what you're referring to.
I think the issue is they're not whacking enough. There's this concept in private equity when you get a bankrupt.
God, I mean, how can people look at this guy and not see him as anything but a villain, dude? First of all, you're Canadian. Excuse me, ICE, this bald right here, okay? What is his productive output on U.S. soil? You know what I mean? Get this guy out of here. Pack him up. What the hell is this? Send his ass back to Canada. Yeah, I'm going to Lake and Riley Act his ass. I'm going to be like, I saw him stealing a bag of Skittles. Deport him, please. Yeah, I saw him getting in a boat again. Arrest him, officers. You know what he has done in boats in the past. And this time his wife wasn't even in the boat. So he got no one else to blame this time. Okay? Same guy.
Wealth, this is according to Oxfam, of the world's 85 richest people is equal to the 3.5 billion poorest people.
It's fantastic. And this is a great thing because it inspires everybody, gets the motivation to look up to the 1% and say, I want to become one of those people.
Yeah, dude. I'm a child born in Rwanda with a genetic disorder. I can't wait to look up to the 1% and feel the aspirational goals. I'm feeling my bootstraps right now. I can't see with my eyes. I'm feeling with my hands. The bootstraps that I will be tugging on. Fantastic. Psychopath, dude.
I'm going to fight hard to get up to the top. This is fantastic news.
Yeah, low key, think he's helping with the cause with shit like this, let him cook. No, dude, you want to know why? I used to think that too. But these past couple of years, like especially with Elon Musk getting a prominent position in the government, has caused me to realize that no, actually people don't realize how stupid these dudes are. They don't realize how evil these dudes are. They just genuinely think it's God ordained and they deserve the position that they have in society. I'm not even kidding. Like, poor hogs love this shit, dude. They love this shit. Americans are incredibly servile. Absolutely. Absolutely, dude. Oh my God. They cannot imagine looking at a guy like this and thinking that's a villain. That's an evil villain. He's doing evil villain talk right now.
News, and of course I applaud it. What can be wrong with this?
Really?
Yes, really.
So somebody living on
I celebrate capitalism.
$1 a day in Africa is getting up in the morning and saying, "I'm going to be Bill Gates."
That's the motivation
Only
everybody
thing
needs.
between me and
I'm
that
not
guy
against
is
charity.
She's right. She should cook this ass. Damn, look at the CBC, bro. Someone living on $1 a day in Africa is gonna look up to Bill Gates and be like, "Thank God, one day, me too." Only thing you hear that? Hey guys, if you live in the global south and your government has been destabilized actively or propped up by the Western forces, okay, and you're working in horrifying conditions every day, you just didn't aspire hard enough. You don't have that Sigma grind set, dude.
Company, and you go in there, you cut 20% more than your initial read. And then you find, like a pool of mercury, the organization gels back together again. Always cut deeper, harder when there's fat and waste.
If that's the case, why don't we take away all your wealth and then make you start from square one again? I mean, after all, you've done it once, you can do it again, right? And also, it's super simple, right? It'll make you grind harder, Kevin. I think that's what we should do. We should hit a reset real quick, you know? Dude, think about how much motivation he will have if he has nothing. The less you have, the more aspirational you are. Get back in the grind, dog. You should be excited.
FAA, it's not the people. The code is cobalt. It's from the 60s. It needs CapEx put into it for the technology to be upgraded to make it safer. Fat like a chicken. All of these agencies are like big fat chickens dripping over barbecues of fat. This is the best barbecue I've ever seen, but I don't think it's happening fast enough. They're not cutting enough. Keep slashing,
cobalt.
Keep hacking while you have it.
The new old coding system, cobalt. At least he got close enough, dude. I don't even think Elon knows what that is, for the record. At least he got close enough to saying sounding it out almost correctly. Close enough. I know it's cobalt. All I'm stating is Elon doesn't even know what that is. That's how low the fucking standards are.
Terms. Cut. More cutting. Believe me, it's going to work out just great. Everybody should be happy.
Even people with the nuclear codes, cut them too?
Cut everything. Because if you don't see what they're doing and they can't show you that they're adding value, you whack.
But it's not clear that they're even asking people to show us what you're doing. Again, this was a story Friday, and literally Elon said, "Oops, we gotta rehire them because nobody knows how to do what these people know how to do."
Yeah, the nuclear thing. Okay, gets it wrong once in a while. Big deal. So what?
I agree with that.
That's 10% of the time.
It's okay. I actually think it's okay if they run into a stumble here or there because the project is so massive. The need to cut is so massive. The government is so massive. It's inconceivable that you wouldn't make a mistake here or there. But I think that's acceptable if the greater goal is achieved, which is a smaller government, more efficient government, trim the fat.
Even if someone dies, or even if someone, because
Are you alleging that someone has died from this?
We don't know. I'm talking about when the rubber meets the road. I'm talking about, for example, Kansas City, 30,000 government employees might be laid off. It will destroy the economy of Kansas City. That's okay.
Why do you say that?
Because I'm reading what the individuals from Kansas City have been saying, that they're very concerned.
What do you think they're going to say when they're going to get whacked?
Of course they're going to say that. But my point is, do we think that's smart to live in an American city just go under?
How many American cities need a massively oversized federal government to stay afloat? I mean, isn't that says more about the city than the government?
But when did we get to the point where presidents are measuring themselves by how many people they put out of work instead of how many people they get
And
jobs
not a
for.
moment too soon.
Yeah,
Not
this
a moment
is
too
crazy.
soon.
This is
Because the government only ever gets bigger.
Yeah, of course. Oh, God. I hate this. I hate this so much because under normal circumstances, everyone should understand the position that he is advocating for, which is mass layoffs. He doesn't have to care about it because his job relies on him being careless about that sort of thing. He probably doesn't have any immediate family members that will be impacted by this. This is at the heart of so much of the conservative commentary, just being a smug, out of touch incredibly frustrating. Incredibly frustrating. I already talked about this before with Alabama, the state of Alabama. In the state of Alabama, the University of Alabama is the second largest hiring body in the entire state. Okay, public sector jobs that'll be lost in that process. Okay, they rely on those grants. Cut those grants, you have to cut those jobs. A lot of those people that are being cut on the overhead side are going to not necessarily be woke and gay college professors or whatever, even though that's also ridiculous, right? To cut those jobs is also ridiculous. But there are going to be janitorial staff and things like that, okay?
Chickens, hopefully they lay some eggs and maybe then we can afford it.
This strikes me as something that was done just for the sake of doing. And I think it was a tone-deaf move. It wasn't a big enough cut to do anything. It was a completely tone-deaf move. I mean, I find people are always interested in efficiency as long as it doesn't affect them. And it's strange to me that we got enough people to go and ride around the racetrack behind the presidential limousine and such, and to guard 3 residences. And we're never cutting people from there. But to come now and make sort of a tone-deaf move to cut the FAA is again, this is an image thing, and they want to be seen as doing something.